Welcome back to the Pretty Spectacular Football Show. As you know, I am Pretty Girl Des, and I always come with you with all things football on this show. So get ready to dive into all things NFL draft recap. And I have a special guest with me, so I'm super excited to bring him on. We're going to talk about Shedeur and the slide, what happened, and did Deion react the right way? We're going to talk about Pittsburgh not only hosting the draft next year, but all their craziness and their frenzy going on and what is likely to come from this season. We're also going to give you some of the updated UDFA and all things draft. Stay tuned and welcome back to the Pretty Spectacular Football Show. About the intro video. I just love it so much. I'm going to add in my guest here because of course, I can't have a show without actually one of my favorite people. And this is Mr. Michael Lau with his multimedia stuff. He's trying to get me over to Denver, guys. So if you see me in Denver, don't say nothing. Okay, I'm moving on.
Trying to, working hard to get you out here because, this is the big, vibrant sports city here too, We got 6 teams. 2 of them are in the postseason right now as we speak, so there is a lot of excitement around here these days.
That's right. I mean, this is football show, but we do love, hockey, the Colorado Avalanche. I mean, I thought that they did amazing that one year. I'm super a hockey girl. I need to create a hockey show. Maybe you can help me with that.
Absolutely. I love hockey too. But this is Broncos country here, though, so the Denver Broncos outweigh everybody in the state, just so you know.
Yeah, I understand Broncos country, but I really think that the Nuggets have really done more right now. But you know what? I'm gonna let you live on that. I'll let you live.
The Nuggets have 1 championship. The Avs have 3, and the Broncos have 3. So there's that.
Yeah. Okay. Well, let's see if anybody can bring one home this season. So I want to start talking about. We're going to see what I can do here. I'm going to add. I did knock you out. Let me put you back in.
Right here. You didn't knock me out just yet.
Okay. I hate that it made it so small, but we'll do it this way. So essentially, I want to start talking about Green Bay, the draft. They held it there this year, and really what our thoughts are about this draft, about this Green Bay area. I really think that the Green Bay fans really showed up. I know a lot of people were saying like Green Bay is such a. Why is my thing not working? Hold on. Let me get this back. Let me get this back right. Let me get this back right. Okay. So we add Green Bay to the stage. There we go. So most people were saying how Green Bay obviously is a really small market, really small place, and especially not just like that was, being in Wisconsin. And they were like, no, we're going to show up and show out. I've seen a lot of their fans, a lot of other teams fans, of course, you go to experience the draft. It looked like it was a little chilly out there because, it's still April, so I don't think they had like bright sunshine. But I just, I want to know your thoughts about this. What do you really think about this show? Not the show, the draft.
I think it was great. I think Green Bay was a great host. I think they had a nice turnout. People watching at home had a record attendance. They had a lot of people's eyes on the draft from their TVs, from their mobile devices. I was watching it from my office here for a couple of nights, and from what I saw out there, it was a pretty big crowd. Let's face it, Green Bay is a mid-major market, but they have a very rich history with their football team out there. So it's a natural fit that they would have the draft there. And maybe it wasn't ideal conditions in terms of the weather. I don't know. I saw people wearing scarves and hoodies and skull caps and whatnot. So it probably was not spring-like weather out there. And let's face it, Green Bay is very much a cold climate. So sometimes their seasons don't start till later in the calendar year. If you get my drift, it's April, but perhaps the weather doesn't warm until May. Still, if you're a football fan, you don't let that deter you from going to see something like the draft. And let's face it, everybody had the same mindset. They were going to brave the elements. They went out there. Everybody was seemingly having a good time, and I think they got their money's worth this year out there in Green Bay.
Yeah, I mean, I like the fact that they showed up. Me personally, I don't really like cold climates, and like I'm gonna jump in here, like because going into next year, they're going to where none other than Pittsburgh.
Yes, the Steel City.
You know, but cold is cold. Cold is cold.
Well, you're right by the water there too, so that's one way that you're going to be. That's one reason. By that water, you're definitely going to be freezing. So hopefully, it won't be too bad next year that around this time.
Yeah. And it kind of goes into football, the NFL specifically. They have the Super Bowl in the cold months. And then when you have it in cold places, like when it's in Minnesota, it's super duper cold. And it's like, oh my gosh, it's agonizing. But then when you have it in a place like Miami, it's a little chilly, later in the evenings, but during the day, it's a nice, beautiful day. Even when it was in Arizona, because I was there. I've been at Super Bowl since I helped open it up in 2018 with Atlanta. So Super Bowl 53. So, even Atlanta was brutally cold for me. And I was like, this is not what I signed up for.
The best one was one that we went to a couple of months ago in New Orleans, obviously. The weather was nice.
Yeah, see, but that worked out. The weather was great. It ended up getting nice and warm and steamy. But it's just like having the Super Bowl in a super cold place and then turning around and having the draft in a place that could also be cold. It's just like two agonizing times, which you're love it, especially because the draft is free. Certain things with the Super Bowl now is free. So it's like your fans are going to come regardless, obviously. But it's like they say that fans are weak and they don't want to be cold. It's like some of us are not from. I mean, I'm from the cold climate, but now I'm in the South. I don't like the cold as much. It's just cold.
It is cold, but it's football weather, though. I mean, we are in April. It's not really summertime yet. It's not really summertime yet. Summer doesn't start till June. So there's that argument.
I really wasn't trying to hear that it's football weather.
It is football weather, though.
Listen, but during these times, though, we need fan weather. We need fan weather because we the fans. Man,
it's still April technically, and in some cases, spring doesn't start till late April or early May, and then summer it's not till June. So you gotta pick your poison here.
We need to anchor the NFL football season. They already taken over all the holidays anyway, so you might just anchor it and make it just
they have because now we got games on Christmas now.
Exactly, just make it a little bit more weather friendly. I don't know, but okay. So speaking of all of the things like Pittsburgh and all of that crazy nonsense going on in there, we're now going to talk about the chaos going on in Pittsburgh. So as you know, guys, coming into the draft, it was all the talks about Pittsburgh needing a quarterback. It was also talks that Aaron Rodgers was going to come in and he was going to be the savior. He was going to be the guy. He was going to, everything that Pittsburgh needed. Some people believe, other people do not, and rightfully so. And Rodgers is 41, 42 years old. So he is getting up there in age. And a lot of the quarterbacks coming in now are very much youthful and a little bit more athletic, a little bit more, not the in the pocket quarterbacks. So when it came to understanding, okay, Pittsburgh really has had a quarterback issue since Big Ben retired. They've had a new starting quarterback for the past 6 or 7 seasons, and this season is going to be no different. So it's like, where are we going to get the veteran guys at? Where are we going to get the franchise quarterback? When are we going to start really revamping and rebuilding that offensive identity? And when is that going to come in? And it still seems like there's such a struggle for a long time. And if you're a Pittsburgh fan, then you already know. Or if you're just a football person in general, you already know that Pittsburgh identity has always been defensive. Yes, defense will win you the game, but you got to have some offense, be able to put points on the board when it's your time. And at this point and at this time, it's seeming like there is just not a lot of things going on when it comes to what is Pittsburgh doing? What are they? How is the quarterback situation navigating? What's going on? There's been really no word of Aaron Rodgers and if he's going to be there. But everybody's thinking, well, they passed on Shedeur. They didn't draft him. They drafted a quarterback in the 6th round. So that means, they got Aaron Rodgers has to be there. He must be on contract already. But again, there's no word. There's no saying. And even when they did the moment with Mike Tomlin, he sat down and was like, I'm going to let you run with it because you always will. But it's just like he still never gave us an answer. So at this point, I'm trying to figure out what is going on in Pittsburgh. What are they doing? What is this going to look like in the near future? Because camp and all that is starting. Like May, I know someone is leaving like May 8th. Like, so things are getting to our OTAs, mini camps, all that stuff is going to be starting soon. So it's really trying to figure out what is happening in Pittsburgh and what is the frenzy here. Will crazy. Will Howard be the answer? Because he got drafted in the 6th round. So like, what really, I really need some discussion on that, because I really feel like something is tanking really bad. And they say trust Omar Khan, but it's really hard when you have to trust the fact that you're a fan and you're looking like, oh my gosh, what is happening? What is going on? What are we doing? So let's talk about that.
Yeah, let's talk about the Pittsburgh Steelers and how many thought that they were actually going to draft Shedeur when he was bypassed by 6 other teams or 7 or 8 other teams before they got to their pick, and that didn't happen. You want to talk about quarterbacks? Yeah, that is all. Many thought that was going to be the next landing spot for Shedeur after the other 3 or 4 teams that we were thinking was going to draft him did not. So we were kind of perplexed by that move, and then we saw what they ended up drafting in response. But you want to talk about quarterbacks? I mean, they thought they had something going last year, Des, with Russell Wilson. I mean, they thought he was going to come in here and change things around. They got to the postseason, but he wasn't the franchise quarterback they wanted him to be, apparently, and that's why he's no longer there. Then you had Kenny Pickett for a minute, and that didn't work out. So I think Pittsburgh is now playing with house money here, is what it sounds like. They're trying to get somebody that can actually run. They really are, because honestly, what are you going to get if you decide to bring Aaron Rodgers into the mix? First of all, do you want that baggage? People were talking about Shedeur being baggage. Do you think that Aaron Rodgers doesn't have as much more baggage right now out of the two? Who would you rather have right now? First of all, Aaron talked himself out of New York. That's why he's still looking for a job. He's banged up. No matter how old he was, he's not Thomas Patrick Brady. And his skill has diminished a little bit now. So it's like, do you really want to take a chance on damaged goods, as I call it, rather than try and look for a way of winning? Because let's face it, a lot of these teams, including Pittsburgh, are in that win now mode. They don't want to continue to regress. The fan base, as you know, in Pittsburgh is really strong, and they don't tolerate losing. They don't want to hear, well, what Shilo's trying to make moves to get back to those winning ways. They want that to happen now. And again, playing with house money with a quarterback that they're hoping they can develop into a franchise quarterback. Mike Tomlin can certainly do the job, but again, patience is a virtue, and I don't know how much more patience those folks in Pittsburgh have.
Let's talk about that. How much more patience? I mean,
and I don't know. That's just it. Patience.
I don't have any.
Who does? If you're struggling consistently, if you're not winning, then at some point the patience level just goes from 100 to 0. It's like we just can't continue to go down the well here. We want to start winning. So what are we going to do about it? You get a quarterback that you think you can develop into a franchise quarterback? Great. But again, how long is that going to take? They always say trust the process. Well, they had the process last year, I thought, with Russell Wilson, but that didn't work out too well. And now they're going backwards again. I don't know what they're doing out there in Pittsburgh. I would hope they have a plan that's going to work. I think, again, house money. Maybe this will work. Maybe it may not work. But this is a Mike Tomlin move. So I hope – excuse me. I don't hope – I know he knows what he's doing because he's been there for a long time. But I hope in his case it does pay off because they don't want to keep going backwards.
Yeah, it's not seeming – I mean – and again, I have to be non-biased for the most time, but since we're talking about, I am a Steelers fan. I've been a Steelers fan since I was a young lad or lady, whatever. Gal.
Full disclosure, I'm a Giants fan. I've been a Giants fan since I was born. Okay.
Now you guys have Russell, but I just feel like there wasn't enough opportunity to give into Russell. I feel like there could have been more. I feel like we could have given him more of an opportunity. And I understand I say things that work out maybe with Arthur Smith and how he does offensive schemes and runs his offense and the way Russell runs his. But I feel like we did all of that. We did all of those movements of getting Russell and then getting Justin Fields. And then we did all that chess to not even play. You know, it's like we looked like we were playing chess, but we really was playing checkers.
Checkers.
The point is like we need chess because the checkerboard is running low. It's old. It's old. And honestly, like I try to be as optimistic as possible. And I always fight for the team. But it is, you know, I see what a lot of fans are saying. A lot of people in general, like Mike Tomlin gets to talk to the media, and sometimes it's a whole bunch of nothing. And it's just like if you're not going to give an answer, granted, you may have to talk to the media, but if you're not going to give an answer, then change the subject and give us something. And it's always just like a non-answer. And it's just like, that's not working either. It's not working out.
You're adding to the suspense that fans are starting to wonder what is going on behind the scenes, that they can even have any faith in the team right now because of the way things are going. You don't want to have that vibe going around Pittsburgh either. And let me tell you, they get off with that vibe real quick.
And it's going to happen. I feel like some of the fan base obviously wanted to have Shedeur. Some of the fan base did not want Shedeur. And it's like, at the end of the day, we need a franchise quarterback. And I feel like we rallied behind Kenneth Pickett. We rallied behind him when we got him in the draft, and we showed him love. So why couldn't we do the same thing moving into this new era, moving into getting somebody who at the end of the day, if it didn't work out, it didn't work out. But there is no starting QB right now, unless we do Mason Rudolph. And Mason Rudolph has never really been a starting QB. He's always been the backup. So I don't think he's in starting QB position.
And that's just how many quarterbacks you can go to right now that can actually, you can say, are reliable to be at that starting role right at this moment. I mean, put your chips on the table. Who would you rather have in that position right now? Anybody? Do you have any confidence in any of them?
Any of them?
Any of the it's all right there. It's like the fans. They feel the same way. Do we have any confidence in any of these quarterbacks we have that can get into that starting role and get this franchise over the hump?
Yeah, I think
they really can't say that, to be honest. They really don't have an honest answer for that right now.
No, there's no honest answer. Do I think that Aaron Rodgers could make a difference? Absolutely. But I'm also on the edge about that. It's something that I just can't say, like I'm all in on Aaron. I can't say that because I haven't been able to see a lot of productivity from Aaron Rodgers in the last couple of seasons. Is he still great? Absolutely. Is he still phenomenal? Absolutely. Is he still a wonderful quarterback? Absolutely. Like, he didn't get the accolades that he has and the name that he has for himself, or then he's made for himself over this time for him not being a good quarterback. But I'm not sure if we're going to get prime time Aaron. But could it be enough to maybe mold Will Howard into being the next quarterback, to being the franchise person, to just getting him some veteran guidance? We already know he's really not going to be his mentor. He's not going to teach him nothing. But Will Howard's going to have to be hungry enough to learn it on his own. And do I think that he could do that? Yes. But it's also like there is no solid answer. Nobody has announced yet that Aaron Rodgers has signed with the Pittsburgh Steelers. So you can't say, well, Aaron Rodgers is the guy. We're just talking about Aaron Rodgers being the guy. Aaron Rodgers can come up tomorrow and say, I'm retiring. So bye, 2 up, 2 down. I'm out of here. So that's really not a good answer. And it's just like, this is just a lot of chaos. And it's really getting too close to the start of the season for us to still be for them to still be in a position where they don't have an answer. And it's just like, that's just really kind of unacceptable to me.
For a franchise like Pittsburgh, you never thought that we'd see this, that this is a franchise that's really has a lot more question marks than solutions. And that's not good. Like you mentioned, getting ready to go into the spring season and the off-work season. And then before you know it, training camp's going to be opening up. What's it going to look like come June, July, August when they start getting back on the field? And then all that empty. That's the part.
That's the part that really like kind of worries me a little bit. But again, I have to just stay and look, be optimistic with all that. And that's me saying it from a fan perspective. But me as a journalist, reporter perspective, I still don't know. I'm unsure. I'm just like, I don't know what they're doing over there. It seems like they're losing their mind. Seems like they're losing their mind.
Obvious. That's obvious. They're losing their mind.
Okay.
But there's some hope. Give it some time. I still don't know if Aaron Rodgers is the solution. I know everybody's been talking about that, but I just don't know if that's who the Steelers want to take on right now with that baggage. I just don't think they want to do that. It's going to be another hot and messy situation like it was when he was with the Jets. He's probably going to be on those talk shows talking about what he doesn't like when something doesn't go his way. He'll be complaining about that. And then before you know it, he'll be putting himself in a position to be talking himself out of another city because he simply just cannot just lay low and just work at it. Just work it out.
Yeah, he doesn't work it out. He's not going to work it out. We know that. We know that much. That's like they say, like Bill Belichick when he's a coach. There's certain things he just will not do as a coach. And that's, you are who you are. Can't change who you are.
Basically, yeah.
Right. I do want to move into talking about some of the draft numbers here and draft history and things that were going on. A lot of people don't talk about these things because a lot of times it's one subject, one topic, one things. But for me, I think it's really important. So there were 257 young hungry athletes that were drafted in the draft this year. And from that, the SEC, let me say it one more time, the SEC, I said what I said, the best college conference, in my opinion, you can say whatever.
Who won the national championship out of what
conference? It don't matter. Just saying. Don't
The Big
matter.
Ten right now has you beat because
Don't matter. But okay. Ohio State. Okay, whatever. But the SEC had 79 athletes get drafted in the NFL draft. And then moving on to just FCS players in general, there were a total of 8 FCS. So those are the lower mid schools. And then there was one actually that's in the FCS, but one came from an HBCU. So really quickly, I want to go over their names. I did not make me a graphic for this. So school, we're just gonna talk about it. Okay. So you had Gray Zabel, offensive lineman from North Dakota State University. North Dakota also has been at the top of their conference, winning their championships. So they've been doing great. He's going to the Seahawks. The Raiders selected Charles Grant, offensive lineman from William & Mary. I love William & Mary. My cousin graduated from William & Mary, so I just felt a little bit of like sentiment there. The Buccaneers got David Walker. He's an edge from Central Arkansas. You got the Ravens took Carson Vincent, and he was offensive lineman from Alabama A&M. That is the one lone star draftee from this draft. And remember, I'm saying draftee. Okay, so quote it correctly. Okay. Then you had the Titans took Jackson Slater, offensive lineman from Sacramento State. And then you had the Raiders, back-to-back Raiders. They took Tommy Melanot, and he was a quarterback. It says quarterback / wide receiver. Not really sure what is up with that. So that was hard for me to say. And he's coming from Montana State. They also took Cam Miller, quarterback from North Dakota. And then you have the 49ers taking Junior Burgeon. He is a wide receiver from Montana. So if you are looking at an FCS school to go to, I would suggest you go to North Dakota State. You should go to North Dakota State University and or Montana, because those are the people who are getting selected the most out of our 8 FCS from this year. And also, if you are an offensive lineman and you are at an FCS school, those are the positions that are not sexy positions. People just don't talk about those positions that often, but you should. You have a chance. You have a chance, because majority of the people that got drafted this year, and majority of people most of the time are big. Either they're defensive linemen or offensive linemen. So don't worry if you don't have a big sexy position. You still can make it happen. It still can happen for you. Okay?
You could.
I
mean, I know we go by positions a lot when it comes to drafts, and every team has a need at each position. And there is some positions that are needed at others, and then there's other teams that have needs in multiple positions. So there's that. That makes sense. You mentioned North Dakota State. Yes, they are legit blue blood in the FCS division. In fact, that team came out here to play Colorado earlier last year. People were kind of surprised how close the game was. And I was telling people in the press box, no, North Dakota State is a legitimate program. They could probably play on the FBS level because that's how good they are. Yeah. Look at their record. They're not a fluke. I mean, yeah, on paper, they're thinking that, well, the Big 12 is a more superior conference than the North Dakota State's conference, but it's all about the skill level, and they certainly had the skills in the players. That's why he got drafted, because he was really good.
Yeah, I watched North Dakota State play quite a bit, just because I was interested in hearing like the buzz and everything around it. So they are pretty good, and they have, they are building a program over there. So, I mean, congratulations to them, to their coach, to their program in general, getting, players off the board and into the draft, because that also just helps you and helps your program, because your draft stock just went up. It just went up. How do we feel about our one HBCU player that was drafted in terms of just?
We love it because we already know there's always a pipeline from HBCUs to go to the NFL. It's been going on for years. We go about this going back years, decades. It's always been a pipeline for HBCUs to get to the NFL. You know about all the Hall of Famers who played on the HBCU level that went on to great careers in the NFL. So it's not surprising that we're seeing that. I am actually happy that they're getting more of that respect and more exposure, because there was a time that there really wasn't much talk about them and getting that national exposure, mainstream exposure like they're getting now. So finally we're seeing that, and it's good, because that means it helps their recruiting, it helps their program. It also brings a lot more eyeballs to those that want to go to these programs and play for them. And it also helps on the recruiting trail too, because you look at those programs that lost those players, now they're going to want to get players that they can recruit, that want to say, oh, he played at Jackson State. Oh, he went to Howard. Oh, he went to Morgan. Oh, he went to Grambling, and he went to the NFL. I want to play for a program that's going to get me towards that next level. Why not? Look at Shedeur and Travis. They play at Jackson State. They transferred to Colorado, but it started at Jackson State on their path to the NFL. So there's that.
Yeah, but when you only have one compared to a school that had 15, you know, that's where the disconnect starts to happen. Like, it's a great and awesome thing. They do have some players that get UDFA deals, but that's not a guarantee they're going to make the team either. And that's just something that I had to learn myself, because I was like, there's so many different, like I see people like they get camp invites.
Right.
And get UDFA contracts. And it's like, just because you get those contracts, I mean, being a draftee, you have a much better chance of actually making that roster, and a much better chance that you actually won't get necessarily cut. You may get put on a practice squad, but you may not actually get cut. Not saying it never happens, not saying it doesn't happen. But when you look at that, you're like, okay, well, I'm better off as being a draftee. I got a little bit more. I get a little bit more, right? But when you're signing in as a mini camp, and a mini camp invite, or you're just getting a UDFA contract, those things are not guaranteed. And actually, like, you don't really need a new contract, and probably unless if you make that 53-man roster. So it's like, it's just as hard. And yes, I'm super proud of it, but I'm also super just like, what the heck? One out of 257, one draftee, and really it's a total of 2 in the past 3 years. So it's not even one every year, which again is it's not really the best of statistics when you're looking at it. And it's going to do some things. I'm wondering and hoping, like, if maybe, the NFL players that are now coming in to be HBCU coaches, is that going to help them with their draft stock, maybe getting them drafted into those programs, because they're already with NFL people. However, there are currently NFL coaches who coach in HBCUs in those spaces, and they're still struggling to get their players onto the draft board. And again, I want to make this very specific, because people get in the comments and want to get yippee yappy. I'm talking solely about draftees, not about anything else, because again, draftees give you a little bit more opportunity to actually make that roster. When you're not a draftee, you still have an opportunity. Hear me out. You still have an opportunity. You still can fight and do what you need to do, and still be your best self, and still have all of the chance that you can have as a UDFA contract and or minicamp invite. However, let's not be fooled here. A lot of the times you're invited because they need those bodies. They need that representation. They need the opportunity to do that. So you really got to show up and really outbeat everybody. And it's really, really hard. And it just, like I said, I'm super happy and I'm super proud, but 1 out of 257, it's not a good batting average to me. Like, that's not even a C average right now. That's a failing
That's
grade.
a D, almost an F right now. You're right.
Yeah, so, and I want to, I pulled up the screen where we can actually see the current, since we're going to move it. So I'm skipping here because it was at the end of my thing, but looking here, I don't know if you can see this. Can you see this?
I cannot see it.
Okay, let me see. View tab, sharing. It's supposed to be sharing my screen. All right, let's see. So you can't see at all.
I'm just seeing you.
Let's see. I'll try one more time, because I thought it was really interesting looking at this. I'm going to share my window to see if I can bring it up here. Let's see. Can you see this?
Still can't see it.
Oh, wow. Well, maybe I'm not doing it right. Okay. Well,
it's broadcasting. Technical difficulties will happen.
Okay. Well, I don't have my live chat up to see if anybody could see it, because I didn't bring up the live chat. I didn't do it, but I wonder if I can do like this. Nope.
Okay, there's the minimizing me. I'm on the right side of you now.
I know. No, I was saying I was hoping I could get the screen up on here. But anyway, I was looking at the list of the undrafted rookie free agents because that list is updated per hour of the it's updated daily as signings go on. And looking at these contracts, the Arizona Cardinals didn't sign a lot of people at first, but they've now signed a lot of people. And I'm just going to go through and maybe say like the names that we may know, like defensive tackle Elijah Simmons. He is from. I really wish I could share my screen so everybody could see this. I know
Lowe's
him.
knows spring is a chance to prove you've got this whole adult thing down. With the right.
I don't know what was this going on. I know him obviously because he is a defensive tackle from Tennessee, the Big Orange. So from Memphis, 6'1", 334 pounds, defensive tackle, and he's getting signed with Arizona Cardinals for the UDFA. So he's going to be going to camp and it gets to show out and show himself. Another super name that we may know is Kobe Bryant, and that's B-E-E Bryant from Kansas. He is a cornerback, and he was on saying like, oh, I know there's not 26 corners that are better than me, So
yeah, I remember he said that quote. I read that quote.
Yeah. So he's getting his chance with the Atlanta Falcons. It's a big name there. Joshua Gray, offensive lineman, defensive lineman, Simon Barron Jr., wide receiver, Nick Nash, running back, Nate Carter. All of those people are getting a chance with the Falcons. Another big name that you may know, Trey Higgins, linebacker, and Chandler Martin. So Higgins is from Iowa. So, if you keep up with, I'm assuming you keep up with that part of the world and their sports, probably all of them, but yeah. The Bills only have quite a few. Hayden Harris is somebody that, people know. Jacob Bayer, he's getting a chance there. Carolina has quite a few they've picked up and selected as well. I'm looking for I was looking for a specific person on here. They definitely updated it a lot since earlier this morning. I looked at it, I'm like, whoa. You have on the UDFA contract going to the Broncos from FAMU, you have Kendall Bowler. He got a contract. He's going there.
There's another player from Howard I read recently. He got Deion invite too.
Yeah,
who the player was. He was also invited. So HU had a couple of invites as well.
Yeah, South Carolina State also had an invite, I think, to the Jets.
That proves your point, though. All these invites and not a draft. It's almost like, these kids work hard to get the opportunity to be drafted. Now, I understand it's part of the process. You have to work your way onto a team. But why, if they're giving their best effort on that level, why don't you consider them at least, if not even the top 2 rounds, maybe like 3rd or 4th round, if they're that good? Why not give them a shot to at least get in them? If you want to call it what it is, one of the later drafts. Because we're going to try and see, we want to say we should get them in the 1st round, 2nd round. We hate to be realistic, but unfortunately, we know that's not going to happen. So in this particular case, get them in get them the 3rd or 4th or 5th round, at least give them a shot to get them in the draft. Why not? They are good enough to be on that. If they're good enough to get an invite, then why not get a draft, right? Let's just call it what it is. If they're good enough to get an invite from a team, why wouldn't you want to at least draft them if they have that potential? Give them a shot.
Right. And then that's the whole point. And again, I wish I could have shown this screen because there's so many names on here, and some of the names are not even updated yet because there's still some from Jackson State, a few that got invited and that has the contracts. And it's just, like I said, going into that, the one, I do want to big, I have to do this because, hold on. Now I have to get it for sure. I got to get it for sure because I mentioned this guy and I did a no, not that one. I did a video about him before, and I was just like, get him on a roster now, okay? So I'm gonna I gotta bring it up. I'm gonna show you. This is my guy. I'm gonna show this picture. His coach says that he is essentially a unicorn. And anybody who didn't think so, you're just hating on a kid. Okay. I gotta bring it up though. So give me 1 second. It's something when you're live, you just gotta get it. Just gotta get it how you can get it. So with this young sir, let me see. Of course, it didn't save my image like I needed it to. Let's go back here.
Love technology these days.
And that's the thing about technology and in general. And I know it's like, oh, we don't want any dead space, whatever. But it's like, listen here, I need to get this.
You're running an operation here.
Boom. Okay, so let's be able to save my guy. I'm trying to get a good picture of him though. Like everybody's pictures have been very much like.
Can I search for him maybe on my side? No?
Yeah, but I got it.
You got it? Okay.
I got him. Maybe but at some point I'm gonna, since I'm producing my own show, it's kind of hard. We're gonna bring up, and I'm gonna talk about this guy because I did a video on him before. This is Desmond Watson, and that's my name twin, and I was rooting for him. I saw his pro day at Florida. He's a Florida Gator. He was coming in at 464 pounds. His coach says that he is a unicorn. He's just athletic. He's mobile. He can move. He can jump. He can lunge. Wingspan is crazy. Obviously, the NFL is probably going to make him drop a little bit of weight, but he has signed a UDFA contract with I just had it here. He has signed that contract with, I don't know why, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I thought it was Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So he's going to be joining Shilo over there. Shilo and them. Okay. He's going to be joining Shilo and them because he is really just a unicorn. He's great. Obviously, was not drafted, but he's still getting a shot and opportunity. And I said this before. I was like, this is a big guy. It's a big dude, but he needs to be on somebody's main screen. He needs to be up there with somebody. He needs to be one of the ones. And he's getting an opportunity. So I just had to shout that out. I'm going to clip it because I did make this clip before. And I was like, get him on the team. Get him on somebody's team because he's worthy enough to be on somebody's team. And I feel like he will make the Buccaneers team. I feel like he's going to do whatever he needs to do. He's going to make the team. I'm rooting for him. So I had to bring it up. I just had to.
Yeah, he is a big dude. I'm sure he will definitely work the team. He's got ability, and with that size and that physique, he's definitely going to make the Buccaneers, and I'm sure he's going to make an immediate impact should they put him in the starting role because he definitely looks like a unicorn. That picture alone looks like he certainly has skills to flourish on that level. And Tampa would be happy to have him, I'm sure. You'll see.
Yeah. And we're going to move on, though, and talk about the new era in Jacksonville. Is this a new era for Jacksonville? As you know, in the draft, they jumped up to number 2, and they said, we're going to put our money where our mouth is, and we're going to go get our guy because he is our guy. And they drafted Travis Hunter. He was super happy. There was word on the street that he actually wanted to get drafted by the Jaguars. And he said it before in another interview and somewhere else on camera. But this is really where you want to hear where he wants to land. Originally, he was going to land in Cleveland because Cleveland didn't have the number 2 pick. Cleveland played ball because they were like, we're going to stay in our spot, but they also were fielding calls. And then they, end up getting pushed back to number 5, and Jacksonville came and got their guy. So is this a new era in Pittsburgh? What do you think? How do you feel about this?
Pittsburgh or Jacksonville, you mean?
I'm sorry, in Jacksonville. I'm sorry.
No, it is a new era in Jacksonville because, although, let me just say, a lot of people criticize him for giving up pretty much the entire house to get Travis. But they're in a win mode now situation now. Like this is not the time for them to want to go backwards. They got Trevor Lawrence. They're trying to develop into a steady quarterback, which they have. They want to keep him there. Now they get another player who I'm sure can certainly play both sides of the ball. Travis did that for many years here at Colorado. He certainly could play both the offense and defensive side. They know they're getting a unicorn themselves in this player, in this guy. And let's face it, Jacksonville got, I think, one of the biggest steals of the draft because when they traded up, they knew what they were going after and they got what they wanted. Now, of course, it all depends on how it all works out, him staying healthy, which I'm sure won't be a problem. But no, this is definitely a new era for the Jaguars. And they should be, I wouldn't say they'll be contenders right away, but if they get one or two more key players on both sides, I think they will eventually become a contender. And that man right there, you see the picture, is definitely going to be one of the faces that's going to help them lead that charge.
Yeah, I definitely feel that I can hear myself. I don't like that. I definitely feel that the Jaguars are definitely in a new era. They're going to get a whole new fan base when it comes to Travis Hunter for sure. And I think that this is something that they're going to actually enjoy. I think that they've been trying to really get back to that moment, get back to the time and get back to where they really want to be. And I can just think about this kid, they play games in London every season. So he's going to be able to experience that, experiencing growing up, continuing to grow up. He still said that he wants to, finish college and he wants to finish and graduate with a 4.0. That's still part of his goals that he really want to do. So overall, he's a great kid, a great person. You can't help but just love and have, an infectious smile when you see him because he is just living up the entire moment from the time he hit that carpet and was dancing on the stage, to the time he got his name called, to the time he said in his first interview. This is a picture from his very first press conference with the Jags. So I think that it is a new era with them. I think that this new era with Travis Hunter is going to definitely be something that Jacksonville is going to be able to feed families off for a very long time, as long as he stays focused, healthy, and he does exactly what he commits himself to do, which I think he will have no problem doing that. I definitely think that he's really going to elevate the Jaguars and really take them to that next level. So I'm super excited to see what he does moving forward in his football career. Now I'm going to slide on and go to the talk of the entire draft, the entire time. I purposely put this later on in the show because I really wanted to be able to get all the other stuff out first. And that's really talking about the Sanders family. You have Shedeur at the top, who was the talk of the draft. And to be honest, he was part reason why people were watching the draft, part reason why people were watching day 2 and day 3 of the draft, because they were trying to figure out, trying to see, well, where is he going to be at? He is the reason, and y'all can say what y'all want to say, but I'm saying it. He is part reason why people were actually watching it, why people were outraged, why people were talking about it, because when have we ever really, being honest, when have we ever really, as people, I watch the draft all 7 rounds because that's just my thing. I love the draft. I have to do it anyway for me to keep up. But in retrospect, when have people actually watched round 4 of the draft, round 5 of the draft, round 6? I've watched almost the entirety of the draft. I think that this family in general has been something that a lot of people, you can say what you want, but this family has definitely been on and has definitely put people on the mark, has definitely fed families, has definitely showed us what it looks like to be a strong Black family that has money, that has their head on straight, that has good focus, that can bring the attention no matter where they go and what they do. I'm going to give you more time to talk about this because this is really your era and where you come in at really more than I do, because you've covered them. You've been a part of their game days and their organization and being a part of everything that they have going on here. And then we'll jump into talking about Shilo. But I think that a lot of teams really kind of missed opportunities there. And at the end of the day, he got drafted in the 5th round and was treated like the 1st round draft pick. So no matter what they were trying to do, it didn't work. It didn't work. It didn't work.
It didn't work, and they're very spiritual about that. You saw he kept posting scriptures. His father, as you know, anybody who follows Deion Sanders on social media, and you see this every day. I open up my social media pages. More often than not, the first thing you'll see on somebody's feed is a scripture or a quote from Coach Prime about doing something to seize the day, some sort of motivational word or speech he puts out there to get your day started. Well, that's what this family was all about, and they knew that with everything that was going on over the weekend, they were not gonna let this deter them, because they knew that eventually they were both going to go somewhere. And Coach Prime was adamant that they're going to be NFL players somewhere. Would we have liked to see him picked in the 1st round, like initially they were saying Shedeur was going to go? Absolutely. Now, there's always that talk about the debate of him not doing well at the interviews. There was that anonymous journalist who put some stuff out there, or that anonymous coach, rather, that made those comments that kind of probably not kind of, it did mess up his status in the draft because he went from what should have been a top 10 pick all the way down to the 5th round. And considering the numbers he put up last year with Colorado, and yeah, I was there for a lot of the games. He put up some serious numbers out here last year. He won the John Unitas Award, best quarterback in the country. He had over 4,000 yards, and he was definitely, many would say, even early on was the talks for the Heisman until Travis, but he certainly showed he was one of the better quarterbacks in the country last year. And for him to be dropped all the way from what was supposed to be a top 10 pick down in the 5th round, make the argument for what it was. I think they wanted to make an example out of Shedeur. Like you said, though, it didn't work because even though he went to the 5th round, the bottom line is he got drafted. So Coach Prime's son is going to the NFL. Shilo's going as well. So all this is happening on his watch. And there was also the talk that maybe Coach Prime was in the way too much with his other sons, getting in the way with him trying to be where he wanted to be. There was talk that Coach Prime had preferences for where he wanted Shedeur to play, and that didn't rub people the wrong way. Nothing wrong with having any wants for your kids, but now that he's in the NFL, maybe now we'll see a different side of this, and maybe he won't be as in the way, if you will, of what's going on. But Shedeur is his own person, and say what you want, he's going to be. I think he could easily win that starting role with the Browns. I really do. With that quarterback roster out there, I think he can certainly become the starting QB before the fall. I think so.
Yeah, looking at their quarterback room in general, yes, there's 5 quarterbacks, but Deshaun Watson is likely not going to play because he's injured. They have Joe Flacco. Joe Flacco is normally the QB2. Normally, I don't see him being QB1. I mean, at some point, yeah, he did save their season. He did get off the couch and took them to the playoffs. But again, that was a backup, last-minute quarterback type of situation. They have Kenny Pickett over there. I definitely think that Shedeur can outbeat Kenny Pickett. I definitely think that Shedeur can beat and outbeat what's his name, Dylan Gabriel's. So I definitely think that he has that possibility if he does what he's supposed to do, show up the way he's supposed to do. If he knows that playbook by the time he shows up and is really just being that humble person that he needs to be, I think that he can definitely win that position come the fall as well. So I do agree with that, and I think that a lot of this, there's a lot of talk and a lot of things that can be said, rightfully so, especially about that prank call, which I do have here. Which they said that the Falcons had released a statement, and it was essentially that Jax Ulbrich is the son of the defensive coordinator of Jeff, and he is obviously the defensive coordinator for the Falcons. So he made the prank call. I'm not going to read the entire statement, but essentially it just said that he essentially came into the number of Shedeur because they all send out phones. They all have specific numbers. They're private. Nobody has these numbers besides NFL executives, and he unintentionally went to his dad's house, found the number unintentionally, and decided that he was going to do a prank call on him. And this happened while live on stream because they were streaming everything, Shedeur and his family, and it came out. And then they recorded themselves doing the prank call, and it got online. So it was one of those things where it's like it got out there. You put it on the internet. You snitched on yourself, essentially, because they're like, don't we know that kid? We know that kid. You snitched on yourself, essentially, and then you do the prank call. A lot of people were calling for him to be fired, for Jeff to be fired. And people were like, you're going to fire him over just over a prank call from his kid. And it's like, it's a little bit more than just a prank call. It's really about your work computer, tablet, whatever, phone is your work computer. It should be locked when you're not using it. It shouldn't be left wide open. And the kids shouldn't know the password to it because it's supposed to be for work. You should have your own iPad or whatever. And then saying it was unintentional. Okay, of course they're going to say it's unintentional, but it's like, again, it's your work. It's like if you work for the government. You can't say, oh, I left my government computer open and then my kid went on there and started emailing people and, oops, sorry, it was a prank. It was supposed to be funny. Like, it's really not funny because that's confidential information that is not supposed to get out with anyone, to anyone. And the fact that it did get out and the fact that he recorded himself doing the prank is like, you really thought about this. You really thought it through, and you really was like, this is it. We're going to prank Shedeur. So that means you didn't prank anybody else. You didn't prank call anybody else. We don't really know about anybody else. You didn't prank call that one person. So it's very targeted and very specific. So I think it's a little bit more than just a prank. I think it's a little bit more when you read into it. It's like you were negligent with your confidential work and information, period. So
Only that, think about the stress level that Shedeur had to endure all week long with this draft situation, and then this comes out. And that's what I was getting upset with people on social media actually saying, "Oh, it wasn't a big deal. He was just doing a harmless joke. It was only a prank." No. Let me just take it a little step further here, Des. There's this thing called what they say, mental health. Protect your mental health, protect your peace. Shedeur had to endure so much this week before he even got drafted. So how can you think that somebody can even be in their same sense when they get a phone, when they get something like this happening? That's where I think people are not missing the other point of it, the insensitivity behind that. Now, here's the other side to this, and I'm going to go here because I went through here on social media and generated some feedback, but I think rightfully so. Let this have been Shedeur pulling this mess with somebody from one of the other teams that was getting drafted. Let it have been him being the culprit. I think you know where I'm going with this.
yeah,
And if it's Shedeur, people would have been ringing the bell, beating the drum. Get him out of the league. He's gone. He should not be going to any team. He's not worthy. He's in all kinds of negativity when it came out. If the role was reversed, you know it, and I know it. We're going to go there. That's why I think the Falcons need to really make this kid, like they were saying that they were making Shedeur, they were making an example out of Shedeur, make an example out of this kid now because he did something he shouldn't have been doing. This is a grown man you're messing with who's actually going to go into a pro career. And again, you said the kids today, and that's some of the problems with social media. Here's the thing: if you're going to be doing something like that, make it less publicized. If you're going to do that, don't make it obvious that you're doing something you're going to be caught because you just pretty much, you said, you dialed yourself out. Now you got to deal with the consequences. The Falcons and the NFL really need to send a message here that, no, we can't allow this to happen. And you're right, it is sensitive information that he should not have been tampering with. Like, what gives you the right to do that? So basically, I would think most likely would be more of a fine, probably. They might fine the Falcons a good amount of money, or maybe a draft pick reduction, or maybe a suspension. That's probably the most I would think they're going to get out of this, because I just know, given the nature of this, they're probably going to say, "Oh, it wasn't anything where it's like really, really astronomical," but it was still damaging. And it was not a good look for the team either.
right. And everybody thought it was the Giants. Everybody was like, no, the daughter of the guy at the Giants, or the one that coached at the Giants, goes to Ole Miss, and then she gave it to him. Like, they were slaughtering the daughter. I'm like, hold on.
That's why I see that's important here. We learned something about
she took a stray, and she didn't even know she caught a stray, and she didn't even do anything. She didn't even know. Like,
stray because nobody is listening. Caught a stray because everybody's rushing to judgment without getting the facts correct. That's the next thing. You gotta get the facts right before we start pointing fingers, and that's why these types of situations you have to be extremely cautious of who you identify as the person that's at the who did this, what the source was. The source is always the most important thing, and then what happens, because it could easily be misconstrued, and all of a sudden now you're looking like the bad person because you just, like you said, someone caught a stray that they didn't have to catch a stray because you just jumped to conclusions without doing your homework first.
Right. She probably the one who was like, no, I know that kid. I'm snitching.
Oh, hey, I'm sure.
She was like, y'all trying to get me? I'm about to get y'all. I'm
not a part of this. I'm not. You ain't trying to get me in this. You ain't bringing me down. No,
That's what I would have been like, no, you're not about to. I'm not about to get the stray because you was being dumb. I don't even know you. Yeah.
Right, like no, you what's that? You on your own here. You don't even. This ain't it, Chief. You on your own with this one.
Right. You hang it up, flat screen. We did talk about Shilo getting signed with the Bucks, a UDFA contract. I think he can definitely win a spot on that roster as well. He goes there and gets focused. Outside of his, his money issues that they've had and has been plastered all over the media, he does have a good success story, I think. And a lot of people are saying, like, Shiloh's story is actually a little bit more successful, like a little bit more worthy of talking about. I mean, maybe not say successful, but it's just as good, a little bit more worthy of talking about than, Shedeur's at some point. But because Shedeur is the guy, he gets all the glamour and all that stuff. Like, being a safety or being a DB, like, yeah, it is sometimes a sexy position, but no, oftentimes not. But him being a safety made to do things that he's done. He's had an amazing career, and going from different schools, so going from South Carolina, then going to Jackson State, then going to Colorado. Obviously, he was at South Carolina, but he left to go to Jackson State to be with his family. And I'm going to show that picture one more time. He left to go be with Shedeur and head coach Prime at Jackson State. And then when they left to go to Colorado, he still had eligibility. He was like, why would I not go follow my family family. Why would I not go follow my father? And he's been our guiding light for forever. So then he goes over to Colorado and also still has a great career over in Colorado. So it's just really good to being able to see him have that opportunity with him getting to go with the UDFA to the Bucs, where I think he can actually be successful.
I think so. Yeah, I think he is going to just fine with it. And Tampa needs an upgrade on the secondary, and he would be the right person for that position. And he's going to flourish. I think he can easily win the starting role there. I mean, you think about it, that's an upgrade for Tampa's defense too, because now they got their offense again. Now they easily can be a bigger contender than they was last year. Maybe they can get them to the next level.
Yeah,
Shilo at the cornerback position.
For sure. And I definitely think that he knows that because he didn't get drafted and he knows everything that his family went through the past, the weekend and everything, that it's your time to shine, bro. Go out there and do what you need to do. I know a lot of people were upset because they felt as though that the whole Sanders family situation was taking away or dimming the light of other players that were getting drafted. And I hate that because, yes, we're going to talk about them because looking at it from a marketing perspective, the Browns lucked up. From a marketing perspective, the Jaguars looked up from a marketing perspective because two of the most marketable players right now that came out in this draft is Shedeur and Travis Hunter. Everybody talks about them. So yeah, from a marketing standpoint, you've lucked up and you've come up. And yes, it may have sucked that people were talking about it and took it, and they may have taken away from some other players. But you have to understand, they didn't do it. They didn't say. They didn't say, don't draft me to the 5th round. They didn't say that because if he would have got drafted in the first maybe 2 rounds, I don't think they would have been talking about it as much. It wouldn't have been so much why. It wouldn't have been so much outrage. It wouldn't have been so much combativeness going back and forth as to why Shedeur wasn't drafted when he was drafted. It wouldn't have been so much had he been drafted the first 2 rounds, in my opinion. I feel like. Would it still have been some chatter about it? Yes. But would it have taken up the whole entire draft weekend? Probably not, because it would have been done. It would have been over with. And they didn't ask for that. They didn't do that because you see, Travis Hunter still got his shine, and people still talk about him a little bit. But once he got drafted and picked, and we've seen his press conference and all that, it kind of died down a little bit, and heads all turned to Shedeur because they still like, why is he still on the board? So it's really not. It's not their fault. It's not their fault. They didn't do it. I know people are like, hang it up. We're tired of talking about Shedeur. We're tired of talking about, that situation. But again, the NFL and the whole draft process and what happened is why the conversation is still lingering on and on and on and on. And it's never going to stop because of the way that it was done, what was done, and then where he went on the draft board. So that's already a lot of storylines you can pull out just from those 3 things happening, and then you got to add a prank call on top of that. So from all that's going on, and now going into Cleveland and being the 5th quarterback in Cleveland, there are so many storylines that come from this that this is going to be talked about probably until mid-football season. Like, seriously.
And of course, should he, I think he will make the starting role and get named the starting QB, that's going to add even more emphasis on what happened this past weekend and going into the season. That now you got the starting quarterback that went to the 5th round, wasn't in the 1st round. But a 5th rounder is now the starting quarterback for the Cleveland Browns. And because he worked his butt off and earned that right, now all of a sudden the talks are intense because you got your guy now. But you have to wonder though, Des, what if now that we know what happened, what if, say, Cleveland did draft Travis Hunter with that number 2 pick, and all of a sudden they ended up with Shedeur now? Could you imagine what the storylines would have been this weekend?
You literally, when I say you're taking the words out of my mouth, I was literally about to say, let's get into it.
I'm sorry, you still your fundamental.
No. It was a great segue. I love it. Trust me. We're going to talk. Can you imagine if Cleveland would have? That's what my question is. And everybody kept saying, well, Cleveland did right with their pick. I think Cleveland messed this whole thing up. I think they fumbled the bag. Seriously. They messed it up because why? They had the number 2 pick. They should have stayed there. They should have got Travis Hunter as the number 2 pick. And then when they had more time going back into the draft, no, they wouldn't have been number 5. But in the 3rd round, because Shedeur was already going to slide, they should have then went and picked up Shedeur. Can you imagine having Shedeur and Travis Hunter on your team? And you need to you need to bring your team back up to relevancy, to back up to greatness, back up to whatever you need to do. You need it from also a marketing perspective. Let's hear me out. Marketing does a lot. That Shedeur and the Sanders family have a loyal fan base that no matter where they go, they're going to be supported. Travis Hunter also has a fan base who love him. And if you still hate him, that's kind of like a thing. Whether you love him or hate him, you still won't watch. So the fact of the matter is they had an extreme opportunity an extreme opportunity to do something that would have really set the draft apart, that would have really set the draft on fire. Jacksonville stole the shine because they let Jacksonville steal that shine. But can you imagine if they would have played this right and had the perfect draft and did what they were supposed to do and get, instead of doing Dylan Gabriel, they would have took a Shedeur that third round anyway. So took Travis at 2, Shedeur round 3, and then they would have had set. And then you get your your defensive lineman or your offensive tackle, whoever else they needed from their draft picks, you would have got them in your rounds to come. Can you?
Cleveland would have been wins the draft if you ask me. If they do that, you get Travis and you get Shedeur, you won the draft because you got the two players that know each other. The talk of college football. You also mentioned Des, the marketing standpoint behind this. Well, let me just tell you, the two top selling pieces of merchandise out here in Colorado were what? Shedeur Sanders jersey and Travis Hunter's jersey. You don't think the Browns know they're going to get a lot of people buying Shedeur's jersey right about now? They're going to be selling like hotcakes, probably right as we speak, are going off the shelves. And same with Travis Hunter with Jacksonville. Talking about two of the top marquee players that were in college football. If the Browns would have got them both on the same team, you would probably see there would have been more requests for credentials to go to cover games. They probably gotten more national TV. Who knows? The possibilities could have been endless if this would have been in their favor, but. Wishful thinking, that would have been nice, though, to see those two back in one city reunited. And I would think, obviously, the Browns front office would say, well, you got Travis, you get Shedeur. They know each other. Who you want as your starting quarterback in that instance? Should be a no-brainer.
Yeah.
At least that's how we think. But I'm just saying, if you really want to make an impact and you really want to show that you're about winning, then these are the no-brainer decisions you have to make.
Right. I feel like there were so many no-brainer decisions. And again, obviously, we are not the GMs, we're not the coaches, anything. We're looking at it from just analytics perspective, sports perspective, also fan perspective. Honestly, whatever, I'm going to buy a Sanders jersey, and I'm saying that as a Steelers fan, and whatever, mind your business. I love the Sanders family. I'm a supporter.
I got my Sanders jersey in my office already. I got my Colorado Sanders shirt already all packed up.
Yeah. So once, we don't know what number he's actually going to have. Is it going to be 2? Is it going to be, we don't know. So when I know, I'm going to go after it. But I was going to say that, like, did Cleveland get it wrong? And I honestly think that they did get it wrong because they had an opportunity to do like a put your money where your mouth is. We want to win the draft and we want to do it the right way. I just don't think that they did it correctly, in my opinion. You should have never given up Travis Hunter. I don't care what nobody say. You should have. No, you were an opportunity to get Travis Hunter. You should have taken Travis Hunter.
But Jacksonville figured like they were giving them everything in return for Travis, so they figured they got a bunch of draft picks now. So I guess they feel in their eyes it's not really a bad trade. But again, like you said, you just missed an opportunity to get a once-in-a-generation type player. Who the last person that we actually know that played both positions, his name was, who was that? Oh, that's right. It was Coach Brian Deion Sanders. So why not on this level can Travis Hunter play at both positions? He can certainly do that. He did it on a Power 5 level. Why can't he do it at the NFL level?
Right. Looking at the grades, this is only one NFL grade. It's this Chad's NFL draft grades. I like to talk about the draft grades because I just, looking here, and he has really nobody had a bad draft. And I don't know if I agree with that.
Yeah, I see a lot of A's and B's.
I don't know if I agree with that. I don't know.
I'm looking at the draft. I'm saying, well, some of these teams, I'm not so sure. I don't know about the Dallas Cowboys getting an A- for the draft. I don't know. Let me tell you, there's no polarizing franchise right now in sports for the Dallas Cowboys. Mm-hmm. And I'm sure a lot of their fans right now, if they saw this draft grade, they would beg to differ that they should have got an A- for their draft, considering what they're going through right now. More realistically, probably would have been maybe a C+, or maybe even a D+. But an A-, I think is a stretch. And I think that's a reach. I don't know if Chad Root is a Cowboys fan or not, but I think that's reaching right now to give them an A- for their draft.
Yeah, I feel like a few of them, these grades are like, what? The ones I do agree with, I do think that the Eagles, they got an A-. I do think that the Eagles I should get an A. I think that they did do really well in the draft. They statistically do well in the draft. I do think that the Ravens did well in the draft, so I think that A is a good fit there.
They got LeJohntay Wester, so that's a good pickup for them on the wide receiver level. That means that Lamar's got somebody else to throw to, so that's why they got an A, because he was a big pickup with LeJohntay.
Yeah, the Ravens they get good picks. I mean, they, like I said, they're also really statistically good at the draft. Obviously, they're going to say the Titans got an A because they got Cam Moore, but okay.
Giants certainly did an A because although I still don't know about the Jackson Dart situation. I'm sorry, that one was befuddling, and it still is befuddling there. We got another quarterback that already has 2 to begin with. But the linebacker we got, though, that was a big pickup for us. We needed a pass rusher, and we got a pass rusher, and that was a big pickup.
Oh, okay, but that can maybe put it at a C. I don't think an A. Like I feel like there's no way you're telling me all these teams passed the draft and had good drafts. Not all these teams had good drafts. Like, come on.
Again, I think what he's probably doing, he's going by position and what the team's needs were. Maybe that's why he's giving them these A's and B's, because what did the teams address that they need at each position? Did they fulfill those goals with this draft? Did they address them? Did they get the players that they want? Did they know who's going to be available to make an impact right away when they go out there and practice and start showing themselves out at that training camp? Maybe that's why he gave them these A's and B's to see what areas need to be addressed. Like I said, the Giants, we addressed our pass rush position. Now, the Broncos, they got a B+. I was hoping that they were going to trade up to get Ashton Jeanty from Boise State because the Broncos do not have a running back. They have to address that need, and that's probably why, in that respect, I would give them a B- actually, maybe, because they did get a nice pickup, but they need to address the running back position there. And I was hoping they would have traded to get Ashton Jeanty, because if they did, that would have given them an A- or A+. So again, I think he's going by positions by each team, by what they needed to address, and that's why they got these grades. Some of them do get B's, and because they did, some of them just did not do all that well. I mean, they got players, but did they really fulfill the goals that they needed in order to compete when the season starts in the fall? That's the question.
Yeah, I guess we'll just have to wait and see how things go. Okay, I'm going to ask your outrageous, way too early prediction of who is going to be in the Super Bowl for 2026. Just way too outrageous. I want to know.
Oh boy, that's going to be a good. Oh well,
I got my Super Bowl cup because I got it when I went to Vegas. I love Vegas Super Bowl. I can't wait to get me another thing from Super Bowl this upcoming year. What did I get from the Super Bowl this year?
I got my little Super Bowl plaque here on my desk here at work from last week. It's a little ticket like the design here, like the actual.
Yeah, I love it. Oh, I got a wine opener. From this year's Super Bowl, and I have another Super Bowl cup. So I did get something, but this is my favorite Super Bowl cup so far from Vegas.
Oh, that's a nice one. Well, I like that one too.
Like a red Solo cup.
You want to trade the ticket for the cup?
Absolutely not. But I want to know who do you project, or who do you see going to Super Bowl this year?
Well, until anybody knocks them off, I think it's going to be Philadelphia again, because they still have the best player in the game, one of the best players in Saquon. Although we know he's been in the news recently for things that are not related to sports all the way through, but he's still there. Jalen Hurts is still there, and I just think that unless anybody can knock them off, they showed how really dominant they were last year. And Philadelphia was really, really dominant on both sides. They didn't really lose too many key players. They pretty much retained everyone. So I still think they're the team to beat. And from the AFC, yes, it's hard to bet against Patrick Mahomes because they always find a way to win games. And as long as number 15 is still out there throwing that ball, as long as they got Travis Kelce has a chip on his shoulder now. He said he's not happy. He was not happy about after that loss to Philadelphia. So in fact, if those two in, it's probably going to be those two again, I think, playing it out in San Francisco for the chip.
Okay. I like it. All right. Well, I do want to say thank you so much for coming onto my show today. You spent a nice, gruesome, but also awesome hour with me. And I'm so excited to have you. And I can't wait to have you on more shows. And we can really
Absolutely.
Tell the people where they can find you if they want to reach out or if they want to follow your content, and also give a little, you didn't do an introduction in the beginning, so just a little bit about who you are, what you do, and how they can find you.
I'm speaking to you from my studio here in Greeley, Colorado. That's why I mentioned the Broncos. I moved out here this is my third year here. I'm actually by way of New Jersey, born and raised. I lived in Connecticut, worked there for 20 years before I moved out here in the fall of 2022. I'm at KUNC Radio 91.5 FM. This is an NPR affiliate station. I am the radio morning show host and anchor for Morning Edition locally here. And I pretty much am on every Friday, Monday through Friday from 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. local time. I do a little bit of news, traffic, weather. I also do sports. I do cover sports on occasion out here as well. And that's where you can find me. You can find me on the radio out here. You can also find me on Instagram at Lyle Multimedia. Also on Twitter at Lyle Multimedia, all one word. And you can find me on LinkedIn at Michael Lyle Jr. So I'm not hard to find. Like Coach Brown was saying, I ain't hard to find. I ain't hard to find either. We ain't hard to find. I ain't hard to find.
You ain't hard to find. So thank you again so much for joining the show. And as always, you guys, thank you so much for tuning in with me. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure you are liking, sharing, and subscribing on all social media platforms at PG Love Sports. And you always know I'm going to bring you all things sports, but really all things football when it comes to the Pretty Spectacular Football Show. Tune into Locker Talk, coming back full force in June, but you have some shows coming out. If you want to see exclusive content, I'm on TikTok, like I said, all social media platforms at PG Love Sports. And as always, I gotta go. So bye now.